everyone.
Hello. Welcome to the Grieving Sisters. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Jessica. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for joining us. Episode 10.
Episode 10. Do you not understand? We're just like, it's flying. And we're just having such a good time.
Yes.
And I'm saying good time in the sense that we're really finding joy in grief.
Honestly, we really are finding joy in grief, and we are connecting with so many people.
Yeah.
Like, I know that it's easy to say that, like, everybody is dealing with grieving someone on some level.
Sure.
But it's like, I've talked to clients who've been like, I forward this to my family. I've spoke to creators have reached out on TikTok.
Right.
People who from our childhood that we haven't really connected with in a long time have reached out and said, oh my God, I've been suffering with the death of my grandmother for so long in silence. And like, this is something that really needs to be talked about. And the social media episode.
Honey.
They were like, this needed to be said, and thank you.
Yes.
And, so many personal stories of how they were affected. So,
and I think that even with just all the things that we were talking about, like, we're just getting started. Like, I don't think you even quite understand that, like, there's so many different layers. It's like an onion, and like you just peeling back these layers. There's just so much to like grasp and talk about and really like help people. And I feel like this is also, I don't want it to be like it's therapy, right? Because I do this for a living.
Right.
It's not therapy, but it is therapeutic.
Right.
Because there's some people, if they can't afford therapy or they just don't even know where to start to get therapy, like, how do you do that? Reach out to us. Like, we can guide you in the right direction.
Oh, yeah.
And things
we
like
have
that.
so many resources.
Yes.
That's another thing that now we're kind of getting into like our wrap up.
Yes. All right. So let's save it.
Let's save it for the wrap up, because we're going to be like, we've done so much research and we have resources. But today's episode is about supporting a coworker through grief.
Yes.
It is a tremendous space that could be used for good.
Right.
And I think it is hard when you have a coworker and your coworker is dealing with crazy loss. I've been in the workplace and have had a miscarriage.
Wow.
Where I announced that I was pregnant, and now it's like, and certain people knew how to handle it and certain people didn't, and certain people, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But I think that this is another thing that people don't really talk about. Like, how do you support your coworker?
Right.
I see it with people in my own family and how they are at work and how some things are understanding and some things aren't. And remember that not everybody has a work from home job.
Right. And that's very true.
A lot of people, especially in my family, are like, we're in the office, we're touring, we're teaching, we're running schools, we're running libraries, like things like that. So, we can talk a little bit about the changes that you might see in your coworker.
Right.
You're going to see mental lapses. You're going to see decreased energy. You're going to see some difficulty making decisions.
Right.
Feelings of anxiety, feelings of helplessness, an inability to concentrate.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the whole part of your life, focusing on anything.
Yeah.
Absenteeism.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up, like, and especially if you know that somebody called out, like, you would just be like, hey, like, shoot them a text. Hey, how's it going? Like, are you okay?
Right. Also, like, when you're in really bad grief, I feel like your immune system is shot.
Yes.
I feel like I've got sick more in the past 5 months than I have in the past 5 years.
Yeah.
Every cold, every virus, everything, it's like I'm catching all of it. And I just think because, grief really does affect your immune system.
Right. And I just wanted to touch on even, like, grief in the workplace. So I'm going to change the trajectory of just a little bit. I worked in a school. I worked in the school that we went to, and now these teachers that taught us now are my colleagues, and some are retiring and they're ready to live their best life. They gave everything. And then 2 days later, you hear like they pass away. And I'm just like mortified. Like, I mean, I can sit here and name off names. Like, even when I heard like Mr. Steinberg passed away, my favorite English teacher, one of my favorite, right? Like, I had favorites all over the school, right? But then just hearing, and it's like devastating because they also became your colleague. And then you also got to see like more of the human side of them, right? Because
Right.
like when we see our teachers, we're thinking like they're
Right.
like subhuman a little bit,
Right.
right? They don't have a life. Like when we saw them wear jeans, you were like, you own a pair of jeans,
You got
like,
leggings?
right? Like you're not just always dressed up for work,
Right,
right? So
right.
I thought it was very very difficult, and then it's like a really somber, like when it does happen, and it like shakes the whole building. You know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
And I feel like when we kept having one teacher pass away from cancer, like he was so young, Mr. DeVinson, he was so young and just passed away like from one minute to the next. And,
Right.
we were just like, we couldn't even believe it. And then it's like, everybody is just so upset. And it's like, how do you comfort someone
Right.
when you're also grieving that person and you're in the workplace?
Right.
And then you have students that are like, well, what's going on? How come my
Right.
grade isn't fixed? Like, just
Right,
like
right,
really
right,
like into
right.
their world, because that's essentially what it is with teenagers.
Right.
But then like you're sitting there and you're just like, dang, like I'm feeling my grief too in this workplace. And we're supposed to just change our face and be like,
Right.
get back to it.
Right, get back to it. Right. And the thing is like, there's some people who are like, some of my coworkers are my best friends.
Sure.
That's great. I've had that too.
Right, right.
Sometimes you get into this like, I'm here to work, collect a check, go
Yeah.
home, and that's
That's
okay
it.
too. Like
That's it.
it's okay. But at the end of the day, there has to be a humanness
Yes.
approach.
Yes.
We are all humans.
Right.
Death is
The
inevitable.
Yeah. That's it. That's
so
it.
other things are social withdrawal.
Yeah.
If somebody's having a baby shower or a birthday at work or whatever, and they don't want to be a part of it and they don't want to go, like, I had a coworker that I adore that was getting promoted and going to another building, and they had lunch, and I was like, I booked therapy for my lunch break today. Like, I'm going to go in the back room and do a telehealth, like,
Right,
And they were
right.
like, okay, it was no question, and
Right.
it's like that type, you don't want to say, oh, come on, come.
Right.
Oh, have a
Don't force
drink.
them.
Oh, I was so grateful that they didn't do that, because I was going to get upset
Right,
if they
right,
did.
right.
Like, if someone brings a birthday cake to my job,
Yeah.
I'm not blowing out candles this year. Okay,
Yeah.
leave me alone.
Right.
But another next thing, bursts of anger.
Right.
So it's a lot. The last three things on the list are personal conflict, burst of angers, crying, or unusual workplace behavior, which is true.
Right.
You might see somebody withdraw. You might see somebody cry at their desk.
Right.
Unusual behavior. Are they going to the bathroom for a long time? I feel like I disappear into the bathroom for a minute. Sometimes I've started bringing toothpaste, toothbrush, and face wash to my job.
Wow.
Because sometimes I'll like, you know what, let me just reset.
Right.
I will go
Right.
wash my face, brush my teeth, and be like, okay, because like you have a good cry, clean
Yes.
up, go back out there. So
Yeah, and that's what I did with my brother. I was just like, hey, I said, I'm going to go take a walk to the art department. Well, first of all, that's where I used to get in trouble. Because like they were like, where's Jessica? Oh, you'll find me in the music department, the
Right,
art department,
right.
or like, first of all, you're going to find me where the food is. That's number one. If I
Right.
smell something cooking, I'm like,
Right.
you'll find me over there. But like, you'll find me in the art department. Like, I'm always like, I was indulgent in these children. Like,
Right.
So it was a great way to distract myself and compartmentalize
Right.
and be like, all right, well, I'm going to go and just go play with the kids. Or if they're playing a beautiful song and they're just like jamming out, I'm like, come on, just
Right.
jam out, just rock right now. And I was like, they were like, Miss, you want to play the guitar? I was like, no way, because in my head, I have to be like this maniac and I have to be, I'm
Right.
going to take the guitar and just, bang,
Right,
bang, you know what I
right,
mean?
right,
Because
right.
this is the anger that I had,
Right,
like
right.
kind of like those rage rooms,
Right,
But I was like, no, I don't want to ruin your stuff. But I would just take a walk, and I think that, having someone just to understand, like, and I think it's more of that, like having someone understand and coming in and checking in, like, hey, how you been doing?
Right. That's and here under like you're dealing with people who are dealing with shock,
Yeah.
denial,
Yes.
withdrawal,
Yeah.
anger, tears.
Yeah.
So like ways to be supportive is keeping messages short and simple,
That's it.
right?
Yeah.
It's you and your family have my condolences.
Mm-hmm.
It's a respect for their privacy and not to ask too many details.
Right. Don't pry.
Don't pry.
I think that that's another thing too. Like people, they want to know what happened, and especially because it happened like they were so young. So like they want to know what happened, and I just think that like it's understandable, right? But again, it's none of your business. And when they're ready to talk about it, they will. Like when someone's ready, like when I was ready to talk about it, I will. Like, and it doesn't have to be a full on detail because it's none of your business, you know?
Right.
But in the same token, you know, understand that like everybody's going to still grieve. It doesn't matter what it is. Like we're kind of just like what we said in the last episode, that we're going to continuously grieve no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's just going to hit you. So it is going to hit us in the workplace, right? Like you could be in the middle of doing something. You see something on the screen, you know, you just so happen to log in and you see like an old email. Like I was sending an email and this, you know, just to kind of string along the last episode with triggers, like I was like, oh, I have to send this email to so-and-so, and then my brother's email came up and I was just like, oof.
You know, that's happened to me. Yeah. Where you go in and you type an S or an N and, you know, and it's like their email pops up and you're like, oh, I was like,
no, no. And then like, you know, obviously my brother, he went to North Bergen. He didn't finish in North Bergen. But, you know, a lot of the teachers knew my brother as well. So it's like,
I've bumped into people even at my job that have known people who want to move to the area and had like kids, you know, like, oh, I think my son knew your sister or something like that, or people who stayed local in the area. One thing you should not do as a coworker is post on social media. Which, go back to episode 2 if you missed that. But it literally said like you know, as a coworker you want to really support. So what you can do is within the company mention the wake and the details. Internally you can say, hey, the wake for, you know, so-and-so's mom or dad or, you know, sibling is this day. Perhaps you want to get together, send some flowers.
Well, that's what they did for me. So like the whole department where I worked in, like they did send a beautiful bouquet. They put some money in a card.
And even my union. In person. I saw some of my mom's coworkers. And I could just see how like her face changed when they showed up, because these are people that you have been like holding on to your sanity and trying to work with. And now you're finally able to just sit in your grief at this wake, and you see your coworkers come in and you know what? They really get to see what's going on. Like this is real. There's a body in the room. Like this is what this woman is dealing with. And when I visited my mom's job the other day, I recognized one of the ladies and I gave her a hug and I said, thank you so much for coming and supporting
It meant so much.
You know, it really does. You know, let the person who's grieving lead conversation.
Ooh, yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, like let them lead conversation. Like don't avoid them and pretend like nothing's happening or acting like things are back to normal. You know, a quick and a sincere way saying, hey, how you holding up?
That's it.
Not how, hey, how are you? There was a person who commented, either it was on our Instagram, the Grieving Sisters Instagram page, or TikTok. And this girl said, I think it was on the TikTok, she said, I had just buried my father. I was out of work for a week. I came in and I was greeted by the, hey, how you doing? As if I just was on vacation.
Read the room.
And she said, I just responded, oh, well, I'm part of the Dead Dads Club. Which is so quick.
Patty.
Some people are sharp, boy.
Yes, I love that.
You know, and she was like, you know, I'm greeted as if I just came back from vacation. You know, because people will forget, hey, how you doing? So, like, especially in my job, it's always, how you doing? I say, hanging in there.
That's it. Hanging in there.
Because I'm not going to say, oh, I'm okay. I'm not ready to talk about how I feel. Once in a while I will. Randomly I'll have like a conversation with somebody.
But you're also reading the room, like that you can have that conversation with someone, because like there's not a million things going on. You know?
Another thing is, don't compare your loss to theirs.
Ooh.
I know it's very, very, very normal.
So easy.
When you're trying to have empathy for somebody. To say, oh yeah, when I...
Yeah, that's not the same, brother. Not the same. Not the same. Oh, you know, there was one person, and I'll never forget, but it was a good talk, like, because it was something that I've never seen that side of a person. And it was one of the supervisors, you know, she was high up in the education field. And we were at a function and I was like, well, I spent all this money. I'm going to go to this function. And she was like, you know, I lost my brother like 25 years ago. So I know what you're going through. And I was just like, I didn't even know you had a brother. Like, I didn't even know anything about you. Like, besides, like, your husband, your children, like, whatever. Like, I know that part, but I never knew that. And she was like, it's been over 25, 30 years ago, but I can remember it
Yeah.
as if it was yesterday. As if it was yesterday. And I said, wow, like, it's all that time has passed and you can still remember it.
Yeah.
Like, she was like, it doesn't get easier. It just gets more different.
Right.
And again, this is, again, a work person sharing their vulnerability. So, that's like kind of like a twofold, right? Like, it was more that she's like, listen, it does get better. Like, as an older.
Because it was a like positive, like it gets better. It gets better.
Right.
No two situations are the same.
No. Ever.
Even if you both lost a parent, both lost a sibling, like no two situations are the same, and also everyone grieves differently.
Yeah.
So the suggestion with this article is really not to get too into detail about your loss. Like, I think what she said was great. Like, I lost my brother. She's not talking about the manner in which he died.
Yes.
How old he was when he died. It's, sometimes, what it says is basically you can say what worked for you.
Right.
Jessica, when I lost my brother, or when I lost my sister, what helped me was so and so and so.
Well, that's why I sent you that grief journal so fast. I was like, listen, this is what they did. This is
what helps. Like,
I'll check in with you.
Start writing, things like that.
Right.
And then the last thing on this list is really to avoid assumptions about their belief.
Ooh.
Do not say it's God's plan. Do not say
they're better off.
They're better off.
They're better.
They wouldn't.
They're
want
in a better
doing
place.
This. They're in a better place. Yeah, it's just not the right.
Nobody wants to hear that.
Nobody wants to hear that.
The right place is here and now, and I want them here so I can touch them intangible, and I can hug them and argue with them if I wanted to.
Yeah. Don't assume. Don't assume. Now, the people who Yes, everybody knows I'm Christian, right? So it's like, if you're in my Bible study, yes, we can talk about God. We can talk about things like that, But some people are not believers. So telling them, oh, this is God's plan. And even me, as a person who's so deep in their walk with faith, if someone was to say, well, this is God's plan, there is no way in my mind that I am going to compute a way that this benefits me or the world.
Right.
A healer was taken from this world.
Right.
At
a young age.
All she did was give to everybody. You know what I mean? And bring joy. So it's like, there's no scenario. I will accept it because I have no choice.
Right.
And that's what people have to understand. Anybody who's dealing with grief, they are forced to accept something that they don't want to accept.
Right.
So think about that. Right. If you've never had to deal with grief, think about having to deal with something and there's no way you can fix it.
No.
And there's no
solution.
There's no solution.
There is no solution to grief. So as much as that, you want to know how to fix it, let's fix it right away. Like, or try to be solution focused and like, we don't want to feel the feels and all this other stuff. But in the same token, it's like, no, let's take a couple of steps back. There is no solution for grief.
That's a great thing that you say, because it's so true. There's no solution for grief.
Right.
There's no way to fix it. So people who have that sort, and these people are amazing coworkers.
Sure.
Like, these are people who are solution-based,
yes,
who are always putting protocols in place.
Yes.
These people who are needed in certain parts of the company.
Correct.
But if that's how you approach your personal life, it's going to get very sticky, because you're like, okay, well, take another week off. That may not work.
No, because
what's keeping me going is being here.
Right. But I just don't want to talk about it. Let me talk about it when I'm ready to talk about it.
I've come to work. I remember I know our previous episode before this one is about triggers, and I was driving to work and I saw a large truck flipped over.
Oh, no.
A big 18-wheeler truck. And the first thing I was like, my sister's accident, the truck flipped over.
Yeah.
And there was chickens everywhere, and there's this, and I wonder if that's what it looked like. And I wonder what time this accident happened, because I'm on the road at 8 a.m. and how long did it take for them to clean up? And I'm spiraling.
Yeah.
And then I'm driving to work, and when I walked in, 2 of my coworkers were like, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
Because I was like, I was having so much anxiety. I called my aunt. I texted my mom and my aunt, and I was like, I'm in the car. I'm outside of my job. I don't know if I can go in. Like,
Right.
do I go home? Because I can't drive. I'm too nervous to drive.
Right.
Said, let me just go in. I came in and they said, are you okay? I said, I just saw a bad accident on the way in, and it was a truck, and I just can't think about anything else than my sister's accident. And I said, I think I just want to like get to work and listen to my worship music. And they were like, okay.
And that's it.
And that's it. I didn't say a single word to a single person
And there's
at work that day.
And
I put on my worship music. I got my work done. The phone rang. I popped out my headphones. I answered, talked to a couple clients, and that was it. And it's like, that was a great way to feel supported.
Right.
Now, is that an everyday thing? No.
No,
But for people to realize, okay, she needs her time.
Right.
You know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that, just even talking about grief in the workplace, I think this is just a very important topic. And, you never know what they're going through. You just really don't. And
You
again,
don't know yourself what kind of day you're having.
Yeah.
So as coworkers, how are we supposed to know how to
navigate.
how to navigate?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you can follow a couple of things in this episode where it's
Sure.
like, keep conversations short.
Yeah.
Don't get into too much detail.
Right.
Don't post anything on social media. Don't overstep. Let them lead conversations,
Yeah.
like,
This is, just little gems.
Yeah.
Dropping gems, and
just be human.
that's it. And have kindness. And love is always
Kindness.
the answer.
Always.
It really is. But I want to thank everyone. Thank you all for listening. Go ahead and go and support us. YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Put those 5 stars. Actually,
Please.
and communicate with us. Like, we're on Instagram. We're on TikTok. Well, Liz is on TikTok. So
Jess
you won't see me.
still won't get TikTok.
I can't.
And now, by the time this comes out, Easter will have passed. But I have given up Instagram for
I'm
Lent.
literally-
And she's like, "You got 11 days. You got 8 days." Because
countdown.
I'm usually more on the social media stuff.
Yes, I try. So if you see it,
Up until episode 4, it has been Jess answering everybody on Instagram,
Yes.
and you've been doing a phenomenal job.
Thank you. I'm trying my best, but social media, oof, it's just a lot. It
Yes.
becomes like a full-time job,
It really is. It really is.
But we appreciate you all, and we
So much.
appreciate, and please give us feedback. Like, we would love to hear, just if there's things that you want us to talk about or go deeper in.
Oh my God, yeah.
Let us
we've
know.
got a couple seasons written up, but
Yeah.
as we've gone through recording, we've definitely
Sure.
been like, okay, we got to push this up. Or you
Yeah.
know what, let's move that around, or things like
Absolutely.
that. So if you feel like there's a need that we haven't touched on, we'd love to hear it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.